where we stop in last class? Or today, what we are going to do?
Monetary policy.
Mr. Prasad?
Monetary policy.
Monetary policy.
Monetary policy.
Monetary policy, right. Okay, good. Now, to understand the monetary policy, now what is the main objective of fiscal policy? We discuss. What's the objective of the fiscal policy? Last class as we discussed. Can anyone tell me?
To influence the economy through government expenditure and income.
Government expenditure, government income and expenditure, inflows and outflows. But what is the main objective? To achieve what I told this? To achieve
sustainable employment.
Full employment.
Full employment, not sustainable, right? To achieve full employment, and full employment should, because please remember these things, sometimes it might come to the exam also, right? To achieve full employment is the main objective of the fiscal policy. So now today we are going to discuss the other very important policy very briefly, because this is a big session, right? Big economic session, but we will not go to discuss that. To understand what is monetary policy. So if the objective of fiscal policy is to achieve full employment, how you understand what's objectives or objectives of monetary policy? Can anyone try to answer?
To generate employment opportunities to the low income earners.
No, that is actually then fiscal policy, right? Employment opportunities, more creation, more growth, more that all fiscal policy, one way or another.
I think inflation.
Okay, very good. To tackle inflation, right? But if you really,
I think the main objective of monetary policy is control the money supply and interest rate of the economic country.
Very good.
And the functions of central bank.
That is function of central bank. Very good. So yeah, we will discuss about the executive authority later on, a little bit in a while. But yes, now you said interest rate, you said money supply and all of that. Okay, that's all correct. But if you really think what is the main objective of the monetary policy, all are correct. But if you really try to be more precise,
economic growth.
Not economic growth, not growth. Economic growth is more fiscal policy. You have to be very careful of answering.
Sustainability.
Sustainability is a very buzzword, right? You can use it in anywhere. Okay, very good. But I really appreciate your contribution. But there are actually two main objectives of monetary policy. Which one? First one, I think one of your colleagues said, the inflation. But we have to put it like this. Actually, monetary policy, one of the main objective of that, to achieve price stability. To achieve price stability. We will try to explain what is price stability later on. Actually, price stability means to control what? Inflation. Control inflation, which we will go a little bit further in next sessions, or next in the sense next hour, or just while we are going with this session. What is the second most important objective of the monetary policy? Which you know, I mean, who's the executor of the monetary policy? You know that. One person said that. Who's that?
Central bank.
Central bank. So what's the central bank's main job? Other job? In inflation, I don't know how many job.
Interest rate.
Interest rates.
Interest rates all comes under this. Now your bankers, what's other job? Central bankers.
Monitoring commercial banks. Monitoring commercial bank.
Okay, monitoring or normally regulating and monitoring, right? So not only commercial banks, huh? So what we said is that the price stability, another one we call the financial system stability. Monetary policy එකේ ප්‍රධාන objective දෙකයි. පළවෙනි එක තමයි price stability, to achieve price stability, and the second one is to achieve financial system stability. Financial system stability. මේ දෙක එකට වුණාම තමයි අපි කියන්නේ to achieve economic stability. Economic stability. So economic stability is what? To have the stability in the financial system, which we will discuss what is financial system, and to have the stability in the price system, or normally we call inflation. All right. So with that, we will go into a little bit of a discussion of what is inflation. Now, can anyone tell how to define inflation? Can anyone tell how you define inflation?
Fluctuations and increase of goods and services over a period of time.
Fluctuation and okay, yeah, but that is not the 100% correct definition, because inflation you have a precise definition. But what do you mean in simple terms? What do you mean by inflation?
Price of goods and service increasing ad hoc.
Increase in price and
Increase in private, increase in wait a minute. Increase the prices of goods and services. Okay. What else? What is inflation all about? Huh?
Continuous increase of the consumer goods.
Exactly, continuous increase. What do you mean by inflation? That somebody of you said it's a continuous increase. Okay, yes, inflation is defined as this. Please write. Inflation can be uddamane කියලා කියන්නේ. Inflation is continuous increase of goods and services. No, sorry, continuous increase of the general price level. Sorry, yeah? General price levels of goods and services in an economy during a given period of time. 1 year period of time. Continuous increase in the general price levels of goods and services in given period of time. මේක සිංහලයේ කියන්නේ උද්දමනය කියලා කියන්නේ දෙන ලද කාලයකදී එහෙම නැත්නම් වර්ෂයකදී භාණ්ඩ හා සේවාවල සාමාන්‍ය මිලේ සිදුවෙන අඛණ්ඩ වැඩිවීම. භාණ්ඩ හා සේවාවල දෙන ලද කාලයකදී සාමාන්‍ය මිලේ සිදුවෙන අඛණ්ඩ වැඩිවීමට අපි කියනවා continuous inflation කියලා මත උද්දමනය කියලා. Okay, now I want to generate a bit of a discussion here, right? Number one, what do you mean by this continuous increase? What do you mean by continuous increase? Now, how you understand this concept? May මොකද්ද මේ continuous increase කියලා කියන්නේ? Can anyone of you explain a little bit on that? Continuous increase. So continuous increase is something like this. Now, now let's say, I'm taking a very layman's example. Let's say Susantika Jayasinghe. Susantika Jayasinghe won the Olympics, I think 100 meters, whatever. Anyone can remember her record? I think maybe around, let's say, so Susantika's Olympic record was in 10 seconds she ran at the Olympic and she got the silver medal. But now imagine if we now ask Susantika to run, maybe she's very old and all other, 100 meters, she will take 60 seconds now. Of course, would be faster than you and me. still, but she will take 60 seconds, which is 1 minute. Earlier it was 10 seconds, second one was 60 seconds. But very important factor here is in both instances Susantika ran. But what's the difference here? What's the difference?
Time.
Time. So this here she ran fast and here she ran slowly. So if you really apply that concept to inflation, you have to understand inflation is not mere increase of goods, the prices, because increase anyway happen. As per the basic economic presumptions that increase would definitely happen because resources are limited, needs and wants are unlimited. So at any time that you have this traction in economy, so always the push is for the increase. But inflation is not that increase, inflation is that speed of that increase. Badu mila වැඩි වෙන එක නෙමෙයි බඩු මිල වැඩි වෙන එකේ වේගයයි inflation කියලා කියන්නේ. Right? So please make a note on that, right? So inflation is not mere increase, but it's a speed of that increase. අන්න ඒ හින්දා තමයි අපි මෙතන මෙහෙම කියන්නේ continuous increase කියන වචනේ භාවිත කරන්නේ. අනවරත වැඩි වීම. එහෙම නැත්නම් අඛණ්ඩ වැඩි වීම කියන වචනේ අපි භාවිත කරන්නේ අන්න ඒ නිසා. Right? එතන මොන මේක සුසන්තිකාගේ මේක කතාද ගන්න නැත්නම් what I want to say is that in inflation that you are considering not the mere increase, but the speed of increase. Right. What do you mean by general price levels? What do you mean by this? Can I have Chaturanga to answer? Unasingha? Chaturanga? Chaturanga, are you there? I had the Nidhi the mic muted the I had there. Satukora Chandima or Chandima, I don't know. Chandima or Chandima. Kiana Balan. What are the general price levels?
It is average of goods and services.
So you should ask Chandima then general price and special prices right? Special prices. What are the special prices?
Incremental goods.
Dilshan, are you there? Nandaseni?
Yes, sir.
What do you think?
General price means normal day-to-day consumer goods.
Yeah, to a certain extent, what Dilshan said is correct. The general price level can is api samanyan bhavita karana bandaha seva wala mila. So that means the prices of the generally consumed goods and services. Then ek kya apike parippu, hal, palm, right, or maybe diesel. And eva ke deva general prices. Api Lamborghini ka general price hai apne? Dilshan?
No. No, sir.
No. iPad?
No.
No. They have general prices. They have special. The general prices. The meaning of the general prices is that the goods and services normally considered general.
Sir, what about liquor and tobacco? I heard that previously it was included in this price index, but now it has been removed. Is it true? Or?
True. It is true. That is
so what's your opinion?
Huh?
So what is your opinion? So now someone says now to reduce, to show a different way of that inflation, they have removed tobacco and liquor from that index. Is that?
I don't know. I will tell the story, but then you will decide what to do. Right? Now, general determination of general prices, it's a economic phenomenon. It doesn't have a moral phenomenon. So that means api society එක ඉන්නකොට ඒ society එකේ out kind of majority එකක් ඒ good එක or good service එක consume කරනවා නම් if majority consume a particular good or service, that is considered as a general good, right? So if in Sri Lankan society, if alcohol and tobacco consumed by majority, it could be a general good. So I will now reserve my comments to you to decide whether it's a general or not, right? As opposed to now something called, let's say, heroin. Heroin එක සමහර දැන් නම් ඒක general වෙලා දන්නේ, but it might not be a general good because majority එකක් ඒක පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ නැති නිසා. So then if it is a general good, it should then captured in the inflation. That's true. But during the previous regime, when Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa's regime previously, there was this particular thing called Matatatita. You know, so that means government is not taking any steps to promote alcohol and whatever, tobacco, mata ativaneva, right? So then at that point there was an argument came, okay, now initially alcohol and tobacco, of course, part of the general prices. Of course, we will discuss that later on, how general prices were determined by a consumer price index. It's a part of general consumer price index. But then they took a decision calling, okay, no, government's responsibility is matatatita. So whatever statistical and the government calculation, you have to make sure that alcohol and tobacco is out. Alcohol and tobacco තියෙන කිසිම දෙයක් රාජ්‍ය ගිණුම් වලට ගන්නත් හොඳක් නැහැ. ඒක හොඳක් නැහැ. ඒක හරියම නරක දෙයක්. ඒක ඉවත් කරලා දාන්න. So then
but tax එක ගත්තනේ.
නෑ දැන් එතකොට වෙන්නේ tax එක ගත්තා. ඔය tax එක ගත්තා ආණ්ඩුව. ඒක ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ නේ නරක නෑ නේ tax එක නේ. Right? But the thing is, counting alcohol and tobacco for national accounts as inflation, it's a sin. So then now we have knocked off alcohol and tobacco. Now, if you, I'm thinking, I mean, everybody in this class are very good. I mean, you are not smoking, neither you are drinking alcohol. Huh? So you are such a nice group here. So, but if your friends are smoking, you know, cigarette prices are actually reflection of the inflation. Now, please think that not you, but maybe your friend at that time that he started the smoking. What was the price of a cigar, and now what's the price of a cigar? What's the price of cigarette now, by the way? Any volunteer? All are good boys. No one here will use tobacco. Okay, that's actually the benefit of being online. Right? You can heard and you can speak whatever you want. But in physical you cannot do that. So that's a main disadvantage now I have, but I don't want to call any particular name, Kumara or somebody, but I don't want to make anybody on spot. But anyway, now I don't know what's the cigarette price. I'm not using it. Now cigarette prices are extra. Cigarette prices are cigarette.
I don't know, sir. I guess around 50, 60.
60 what either
60, 65 or something.
65. Okay, right. එතකොට දැන් බලන්න ඉස්සර රුපියල් 10ට තිබ්බ එක පහට තිබ්බ එක ඉස්සර තිබුණ රුපියල් 2කට එහෙම 3 euros ඒවා මේවා now you see that. So it's a direct reflection of එතකොට country's economic reflection of the inflation, right? So what I wanted to tell is now as you said very correctly, the alcohol and tobacco is not considered, but is it a good thing or a bad thing? What's your opinion, Lahiru? Amarasena, what is your opinion? Lahiru, are you there? Kumara Kanakaratna, are you there?
Yes, sir. You mean price increasing of cigarettes?
No, I'm asking what is your opinion of excluding cigars and alcohol in calculating of inflation? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it has to calculate because it's create some contribution for economy, you know.
So that means
we are getting taxes and all, no? So
you have to then mean more consume that to pay more tax, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Lakmini, what is your idea? Mr. Anatunga. Lakmini, no other?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is your idea?
I also think it should be added.
Okay, what is your argument?
Normally, people use it daily now, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Prasanna Ratnayaka, what is your idea?
Should be added, sir, because if the people are using that, we should add that.
Okay, Mr. Rajakulusurya.
Yes, I am also with the same opinion that in Sri Lanka, around 37% of the people who are over 16 years of age are consuming this liquor. So probably it will create some sort of benefit to the country.
Are you sure it would take a benefit to the country?
By way of taxation.
I don't want to have a moral discussion here whether liquor, alcohol and tobacco is a good thing or bad thing. This is your personal choice, right? That's completely, it's up to you. But my point, as economist, my point is, if it is consumed by majority, if it is a general good, excluding that particular component in inflation calculation is statistically wrong. Right? That is my opinion. Keeping it here or keeping it somewhere or matatata or titata mata, I don't know. That's a different story which you have to reconcile, right? But having said that, doing this is statistically, I think, wrong thing that you did. Any comment over this? Since somebody asked this question.
So I think it should be taken out because cigarette prices are artificially increased every year through the budget through increased taxes. So that doesn't actually represent the actual inflation. It is only an artificial increase.
No, it's like that cigarette price, yeah, with artificial increase. But the thing is, what's your name? Who told this concept?
Ram.
Now the thing is, it's like this, Mr. Ram. Now the issue is, if it is even artificially increased, if it is people feel that's inflation, no?
Okay.
Are you getting the point? I mean, if the majority of the people use that, and if the people suffer from that, and if the people feel that, like artificially or not, it would be part of inflation. That's my point, right? Okay. So this is what you have to understand. So general price level. So my personal opinion, and in fact, I've been told this to the Economic Council also. My personal decision is the wrong thing, but if you think it is a moral thing that you should not get tobacco, alcohol, or whatever these bad things out of the statistic, that's sadly different thing. But it will come that you are not really reflecting your real true situation here, right? And the goods and services. By the way, so this is the definition. So we don't want to go. That's the way side. I don't want to go into much details here. But then, how to calculate inflation? Can anybody tell how we calculate inflation? Now, inflation is actually the total amount of goods and services in an economy. Now, let's say this is the main economy. So these are the goods. These are the services. Can we calculate the price increase or the continuous increase of all the prices in these goods and services in economy? It's difficult. Instead, what we do is we'll take a sample. So if this is a sample, in statistics, what do you call this? Population. So the population is a general goods and services. This is sample, and this sample we call Consumer Price Index, CPI. So CPI annually So we have a base here, and so that's basically somewhere around 1,100 goods and services are here, right? Normally the rice, dal, and all other generally consumable things. These are the general goods, right? And then the measure of this taken, and then we think that this sample represent the population. This is very important thing in inflation calculation, because if the sample does not represent the population, whatever the figure that you are deriving here, it's not. Then අපි වෙන සමහරලාට අපි දන්නවා inflation එක report කරනවා 3.4යි කියලා. But you and me, we feel really high inflation. We feel inflation around 15% sometimes. But then the reported inflation is around 3% or 2%. This is this. Now, for example, now typical middle class families use a lot of money for the reloads, phone reloads. At phone reload, phone charges are not here. Not here. Electricity is there, unit charges, but not the phones. Thinking that phone is not a common thing, but anyway, phone is a common thing. But it's not here. Now, and then I mean, how many of you and me, us, we spend on three-wheelers, trishows, or the taxis sometimes. Taxi fare is not here. And how many of us pay money for the doctor's consultancy fees, doctor's fee? Not here. Now, normally, a reasonable specialist doctor you cannot catch without having at least 2,000 or 2,500 rupees. And if you have a sick parent or if a child is sick, you know how much cost that is been that it's incurring. Why? This is not captured because the logic is Sri Lanka we are having a free health, so then that's not supposed to be. And if you have children, or if you have any younger brothers or sisters who are doing schooling, or you have nephews, cousins, and all of that, you would know how much normally typical middle class families spend on the children's education, tuition. Not captured here, right? So this is the whole problem, where that you and me, we feel higher inflation than what is reported. Any question out of this? Please ask questions, because it's very important. As I told, this is higher education, right? This is nothing that I. Any question?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
How many goods and services are in the basket for calculation in the CPI?
1,100, approximately 1,100. About 1,100 should be a fair representative of the behavior of this. Now, let's say make it the end. Have a definitely make it a hal, pol, sugar, everything. Now, what I'm trying to tell is some goods that we as middle class or urban middle class, either in Colombo or Kandy or Galle or Jaffna or whatever, what we incur normally due to whatever reason, it's not here. Good example is tuition fees. Why tuition fees is not there? Because what government says, education is free education. If you're going to tuition or if you're sending your kids to tuition, it's your problem. Why doctors? Because government is providing free health through the hospital system, and if you go to a specialist, it's your problem. If you have more money, you can go. That's fine. But then don't make sure that don't get calculated to the inflation. So you are getting this chicken and egg situation here. This is where, but in inflation, it's happening.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Could you please explain about the Colombo Consumer Price Index?
That is the consumer price index, actually.
Yes,
Colombo, what is the question?
Colombo Consumer Price Index, CCPI.
Yeah, so no, earlier name to the CPI was CCPI, Colombo Consumer Price Index, but now it has been changed to the CPI. CCPI. Yes, but now we don't use the word Colombo Consumer Price Index. Now we call the Consumer Price Index only.
Sir, during last couple of 2-3 years, we are managing inflation. No. But the thing is, at the ground level, people are living with more difficulties. So how can we get that inflation rates, if it is high or if it is low? We can't get the idea from that indicate. No.
Yeah, exactly. I really appreciate your comment, because if you really see the inflation figures of central bank, inflation is 4%, 3, 4, 5%. I have not seen inflation of 8, 9, 10% reported at least last 2 years in central bank books. But as you correctly said, we are in the ground, we know the difficulties. For us, it's very difficult. I mean, every time the prices are increasing, right? Have you ever seen a sustainable reduction of prices? No, it's increasing. So that's what I told to some of my students at the master's class also. At least I feel 15% inflation. That is the reason. So what that's the thing now in economics. That's a saying. That saying is, I will tell that saying. There are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics. What do you mean by that? Mr. Ponnambalam, what do you mean by that? There are lies, damn lies, and statistics. What is the meaning of that? Anyone?
Statistics are the most highest level of lies.
Exactly. Statistics are the most. So that means statistics, the numbers you can manipulate. Boru kiyala tiyanama loke pattapal boru kiyala tiyanama statistics kiyala tiyanama. Ekani statistics kiyala pattapal boru walata wada hapa samahar welawata, right? So that's the meaning, right? So that means you can manipulate. So there are the lies, damn lies, and the statistics. So that means statistics can be the main statistics manipulate කරන විදියක් තමයි මේක. මොකද ආණ්ඩුවට කැමති නෑ. No government would like to show a higher inflation rate, but then this is the inflation that you have. Are you getting my point, right? So that is there, right? Okay. So any questions? So this is how inflation is calculated. I mean, that is something else, some other additional knowledge I wanted to give. That is not really our discussion today, main discussion. So main discussion here is price stability is achieving or controlling the inflation. Now I will ask a very important question. How you control inflation? Or if I ask a question, inflation is a function of what?
Money supply.
Inflation is a function of exactly. Inflation can a money supply එකේ ශ්‍රිතයක්. එතකොට ඔන්න ඕනම central bank එකක් inflation එක control කරා. If they want to control inflation, they have to control the money supply. Money supply. අපි දැන් කියන්නේ normally printing of money කියලා. So what actually decide or what? I'm asking a very simple question. I mean, I'm asking a complicated question, but in a simple way. But you can simply think, right? Don't think on economics jargon and all. This is purely a common sense. Now, available money in the economy should be a function of what? මුළු සමස්ත මුදල් ප්‍රමාණය මොකේ ශ්‍රිතයක් විය යුතුද?
Demand for money.
Demand for money එන්නේ මොකෙන්ද පුතා? මේ කොහේ ladies සද්දයක් නැහැ.
Supply of goods.
Supply of goods, okay. තව ටිකක් කියන්නේ මිස් තිලීනි ගුණවර්ධනකෝ උත්පලාකෝ
Needs and wants.
Bodini Kajaruban. Salunga. Money supply is function of what?
Depending on the needs and wants.
Liquidity.
Huh?
more liquidity is available in the
Liquidity is something else. Money supply money supply is function of what?
Sir, depending on the needs and wants, of the people.
Needs and wants of the people. Very good. What you call that? Economic output. Economic output. Production function determine that you determine how much of money that you needed. So very simply meaning, what does it mean? That you are having a production and you are having a money supply, and then using this money, people would be able to buy goods or services. And then traction you call inflation. Now you know, if countries production the total productivity, fiscal policy, productivity is fiscal policy, deployment of all the resources. So if the country's production is here, and if you increase the money supply by printing money, what would happen?
Inflation
Demand
will
will
go up.
Demand will be high.
Inflation
Demand, high demand.
People have money, so they will demand more and more and more, but the goods or services here. Are you getting the point? Right? Inflation production, if the production increase, then there's no problem. Now that is what I also want to tell. Now every other election, or maybe with all, but we as employees, as even as citizens, what we are asking is more money, more salary. So every government or every manifesto, every president, every presidential or whatever the candidates, they said, we will increase the salaries of the government servants by this amount. Have you ever seen a ritual check? අපි පඩි 1000කින් වැඩි කරනවා 2000කින් වැඩි කරනවා 2000 25000 20000 වැඩි කරන්නට දුව සමහර අය 10000 වැඩි කරනකොට සමහර අය 20000 වැඩි කරනවා කිව්වා. මම කියන්න ඕනනේ කවුද කියලා තමන් දන්නවනේ. එහෙම වැඩි කළා අදට එදාට වඩා හොඳින් කන බොන මිනිස්සු අද ඉන්නවද? Ask from the brain. No. Even sometimes their situation is much more worse than now. අයියකට හේතුව මොකද වෙන්නේ? පඩිය විතරක් වැඩි කරලා කෑෂ් අවේලබල් කරලා වැඩක් නැහැ මේක හදන්න. එතකොට එක මට තියෙන issue එක, that this is the real issue, that none of these politicians are telling anything of how they increase the bloody productivity of the country. Increasing productivity is much more important. How you use technology, how you use research, how you use the proper adequate human resources, and how you eliminate the corruption, and how you basically want to do this and improve this. And we also don't want to ask from the politician. What we want is Germany cash availability, production quality of living, inflation, but there's a good quality of living. But productivity cash value, not inflation again. Are you getting this concept? Any question over this?
Sir, my question is, as bankers, we are promoting credit cards and the personal or consumer loans. The thing is, that is also creating artificial buying power of the citizens.
Exactly.
So how it will happen hit to inflation?
So definitely the answer is inflation will increase. If you are increasing the artificial buying power by with the credit cards and all others, so that means you are increasing the buying capacity of the people. It's okay to increase the buying capacity of the people generally if the goods and services are also increased. So then make a prashna. But if the goods and services are here, and maybe buying capacity, it's no problem, then that person would be rich. That's a different phenomenon. Now let's say now my salary is 50,000, right? My salary is 50,000. You don't know, we are poor lecturers. We are not getting paid like highly paid bankers like you all, right? So my salary is 50,000, and then this is a good and services and all. Now let's imagine that I got some international whatever job or something like that, and my salary now increased from 50,000 to 500,000. So for me, by having a 500,000 only for me, then my situation can be, then I can consume much more goods and services. Let's say, now I'm consuming whiskey. I have just ate some in normal places, but now I'm going to the hotels and the restaurants and all of that, because only for me, my salary was here. Now my salary 10 times increase, so then I can improve my, or I can enjoy and improve my quality of life. Something like that, right? That is one thing. But if you have salary 500,000 crores, what would happen? Can I be better off? No. That is the whole logic. Because if everybody's salary become like that, then that's it. So you have to understand this concept of inflation like this. Now, if I give 1 million to Mr. Cyril, yeah, Cyril, do you like that? Mr. Sirivir, are you there? No, not Cyril, sorry, Srilal. No, Srilal.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Mama Srilal, 1 million, then they not asked.
Yes.
You like, no? Because
Yes.
what do you do if I give 1 million?
That means my living life can be increased.
Yeah, no, I'm just asking what you're going to do. Just imagine now I will write a check and I will give you 1 million.
No, just I don't have any idea, but I can plan it.
Okay, you don't have any idea, right? Okay, fine. It's very good. So now let's say if I give 1 million, Cyril might, let's say he might get a new vehicle, or maybe he will have a good vacation or something like that. He will do. Cyril, while I'm giving 1 million to you, I am giving 100 million to all others in this class. Then are you happy?
Well, personally, I happy.
Huh?
Personally, I happy.
Why?
My friends also can get it, no?
Okay. And if I tell like this, okay, I'm giving 1 million to you, and I'm for the entire country, everybody I'm giving 100 million. Are you happy?
So that can be a question, sir.
That can be a problem. Why? Because the thing is, because that your 1 million is worthless now, no?
Yes. Yeah.
1 million. No, that's the thing. So the salary increase, money supply, you have to understand like this. General money supply, it's not really working, right? So money supply is a function of economic productivity, economic output. So if any politician or any person who would really want to improve the living standard, improve the quality of life, should talk not increasing the salaries, but increasing the productivity. Api make a kata karanne. Api make adala na make olu ene api karanne make vitarයි. Make kamak na ekkene kora denni. නමුත් අපි මාස් ලෙවල් එකෙන් මේක වුණොත් එහෙම no point. ඒ කියන්නේ මම කියන්නේ මේ සමහර ආණ්ඩු 10000 11000 15000 වැඩි කරා රජයේ සේවකයෙක්වත් ඒක රජයේ සේවකයෙක්ව පෝසත් වුණා. ඒක රජයේ සේවකයෙක්වත් they have they moved out of the existing way of living? No. This is not that. Right. Okay. Before we go for a break. Now, money supply is function of what? Now, money supply is function of productivity. Yeah, money supply is balapana pradhana මේවා දෙකක් තියෙනවා. සාධක දෙකක්. එකක් තමයි describe this interest rate. Another one is exchange rate. Interest rates and exchange rates. So what I want to tell is what central bank does is by changing interest rates and by changing exchange rates, central bank control money supply, and by controlling money supply, central bank control inflation, And by controlling inflation, the central bank control price stability. Right? So can you please write that because that's a very important point. The monetary authority has two very important tools. One is interest rate, another one is exchange rate. By changing interest rate and exchange rate, central bank would control the money supply of an economy. And by controlling the money supply, central bank will control inflation, thus contributing to the price stability. Contributing to the price stability. Right. Now, we try to understand a little bit of interest rate. Next topic is interest rate. Now, please tell me, in economics, what do you mean by this interest rate? What do you mean by this interest rate in an economy? Now, what do you mean by general interest rate for a bank? The bank වගේ interest rate එක කියන එක අදහස් කරන්නේ මොකක්ද? Anyone? මොකක්ද interest rate කියන එක අදහස් කරන්නේ? Yeah?
The return given for depositors and the fee charged from the borrowers.
Yeah, so interest rate normally we call the cost of money, right? Cost of funds. So if we borrow from the customer, if they deposit money with us, what we pay, or if we give loan to a customer, what they have to pay to us. That is interest rate in general understanding of you and me. But if you try to understand interest rate in macroeconomic point of view, what do you mean by that? Macroeconomically, අපි මේ පොලි අනුපාතය කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? How you are trying to understand? What do you mean by that? Or if I ask a question in much more easy way, central bank, you always heard central bank is changing the interest rate. මහා බැංකුව මුදල් අනුපාත වෙනස් පොලි අනුපාත වෙනස් කරනවා. මහා බැංකුව වෙනස් කරන්නේ මොන පොලි අනුපාතය? මහා බැංකුව will central bank come and tell for everybody of us change interest rate, ඕක අඩු කරන්න මේක අඩු කරන්න කියලා every bank, because bank has a different interest rate structures. So actually what exactly central bank is changing?
Policy rates.
Exactly. What is policy rate? The policy rate එක කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද පුතා?
The rates that the central bank charge on the particular bank's interest or excess money to be deposited. I would say the rate that the central bank charge when a commercial bank needs to borrow from the central bank or to deposit excess cash in central bank.
Yeah, that is, there's a rate, but that is not really the policy rate. Central bank change normally what rate? Central bank normally
Standing deposit rates and standing lending rates.
What is that? I didn't hear that. What is that?
Standing deposit rate and standing lending rate.
Standing deposit rate කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Standing deposit rate එකට determine වෙන්නේ මොන rate එකද? You know this rate, of course.
Sorry, reserve recovered.
Reserve requirement is something else.
Treasury bill and bond rate.
Standing deposit rate is
Treasury bill rate, TB rate. Treasury bill rate. අපි මේක පොඩ්ඩක් බලමු. You are a bankers, so everybody of you. Treasury bill කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද ඇත්තට? What is treasury bill?
Government lending from the public, a way of getting money from the public. Then public can invest in treasury bill. Then government have the money.
Okay. So in essence, what do you mean by yeah? Sorry, please tell.
A tool used by the central bank.
Yes. So Sanjeev is, I think, very correct. So treasury bill we consider as a tool or equipment where government use to mobilize funds from public. So government එකට සල්ලි ඕනේ නම් ඒගොල්ලෝ මහ ජනතාවගේ මුදල් ලබා ගන්න උපකරණයට තමයි අපි කියන්නේ treasury bill කියලා. So please write, treasury bill is a tool which state borrow money from the public. It could be general public, it could be bank or whatever. So this is actually the policy rate. This is the rate we call, this is the state government rate. Make it api කියනවා තව වචනයක් risk free rate කියලා. ඇයි?
government guarantees.
Government guarantees. What do you mean by government guarantee? Yeah.
Through central bank.
Through central bank. What do you mean by government guarantee?
The repayment is ensured.
Repayment is ensured. Why? How?
Because it's being a government fund instrument.
Yeah, so this is very important point in finance, right? Why treasury bill is considered as zero risk is because if you deposited in central bank and if government is in a worse situation, if they cannot pay, but they still can do one thing and pay you, what's that thing?
As a last resort, we can go to the central bank. Bankers can go to the central bank.
Yeah,
The
bankers,
government-
no, what I'm talking is the general public, right? Now, if you put in a treasury bill, and if the government is government is in a position, not in a position to pay you, but government still can do one thing and pay you. What is that thing?
They can print money.
Print money and give back.
Government can print the money and give you. So that is why we call it is risk-free. Now let's imagine if you put money to HNB, sometimes HNB might be bankruptable. I'm not saying it would happen. If you go to the Bank of Ceylon, could be, even though the government, I mean, of course they are, but bank can be bankruptable. I mean, don't forget the Bahrain's Bank of Her Majesty for 300 years has been bankrupt. Pramukha bankrupt in the country, Northern Rock bankrupt. So a lot of these banks, AIG bankrupt, right? So it can be bankrupt. So if you put your money in a bank and the bank or a financial institute bankrupt, it would be very difficult you to get that. And of course, there's a way of getting that and all other, but still, I mean, how many people lost their money in Pramukha Bank? How many people lost their money in, of course, Golden Key is something else, but now ETI and all other, because they are regulated finance companies, but they still lost. But if you put your money in a government, then it is risk-free. Then none other than the reason is that government is having the ability to print the money and give. So what I want to tell here is interest rates that normally you call here, it's considered as the treasury bill rate. So what government do or does is that they manage this treasury bill rate, which is we call the policy rate and the base rate, risk-free rate. And by doing that, then all other rates would be adjusted. Are you getting the point? So please write what state would do, or the government or the central bank would do is they would determine the treasury bill rate, where that is considered as the base rate for all other rates. So the treasury bill rate adu karot, all other corresponding rates would get reduced. If treasury bill rate increase, all other corresponding rates would increase. Right. Okay. Finally, we take a break. Tell me the relationship between treasury bill rate or the interest rates and money supply. Let's say if you this is interest rate, this is the treasury bill rate. If you increase interest rates, treasury bill rate, what would happen to savings?
Will increase.
Savings will increase. Why? You will get a lot of money for your savings. What would happen to your loan, credit?
Rates will be increased.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Interest rate value now from the loan country.
Loan interest will be increased.
What I'm saying is, if interest rate increase, what would happen to credit?
Will
Decrease.
The tendency of taking the loan will decrease.
Credit is decrease, right? If interest rate padurama, savings will increase. Why? People will save money because the interest rates are super good. So why to bother of putting their money to risk? You just park your money in the bank and you will get a high interest rate. But on the other hand, loans will get reduced. Why? Because it's too expensive. I'm not getting any loan. Money supply. What would happen to the available money?
It will go down.
Getting down.
Go down. Why? On one hand, money being parked in the bank, not used for consumption, not used for investment, and on the other hand, there are low credit. So then people are not again investing, people are not again consuming. Money supply goes down. So if the money supply goes down, what would happen to inflation?
It will go down.
So this we call the monetary policy transmission mechanism. Please draw this. Make him ani tat and liya ganno. So what you have to write is, when interest rates increase within brackets by means of treasury bill, two things could happen. Number one, savings will increase. Put a dash and say why? Because savings get attractive interest rates. Number two, credit will decrease. Credit will decrease. Why? The loans become very expensive. And as a result, what would happen? Money supply will reduce. And once money supply is reduced, what would happen? Inflation will reduce. Now, draw the other side of this. If interest rates reduce, interest rate not. What would happen? Savings will? What happened to savings?
Savings will go down.
Savings will reduce. Why? No point of keep savings. Credit will? go up. Why? Its loans are becoming cheaper. And as a result, money supply will go up. That would lead to high inflation. To lead to high inflation. Okay, before we break, I will ask a very important question. Is zero inflation good? Is zero inflation good? Huh?
No, no.
Why?
Always there should be increase in the economy towards the increase in the
Yeah, I didn't echo. Modini, you are answering, right? Please ask. Please
yeah.
tell the answer.
Because there should always we had to focus towards always the increase in the economic growth. So there should be a price increase, and the assuming that the economy will grow and inflation also should grow, but it should be in a very not volatile basis. It should be a very firm
Manageable.
and steady,
Manageable.
manageable, steady
Yeah.
one.
I think Mr. Modini's answer is correct. The point is this: inflation, normally what I call is inflation is like blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, definitely it's not good. Why? Maybe your vein or blood vessel or capillary would get burst, and then you will be ending up with a lot of problems like stroke or something like that. So that's why a lot of people take medication for high blood pressure, which is a bad thing. Similarly, if the blood pressure is low, it is good? No. If your blood pressure is low, means that you are very lethargic. Sometimes you'll be ending up with a coma, and you don't really active. So to have a properly functioned body, you have to have a reasonable level of blood pressure, but it should range in that range, whatever. Could be differ from person to person. So inflation is also same. So don't misunderstand the point that having zero inflation is good. No, zero inflation is economic stagnation, sluggish economy. But on the other hand, having a higher inflation is also bad. So having inflation of 2 to 3%, correctly reported, not like in Sri Lanka, correctly reported 2 to 3%, it's okay. It's okay. And the problem is if inflation goes to more than 10%, then it's a problem. Then it's high blood pressure. And if inflation is zero, then it's low blood pressure. So that's discussion, that understanding you also should have, right? So have that inflation in that high level is also bad, low level also bad, right? I think our next topic is exchange rates. We are in this part. We still haven't gone to the financial systems. Any questions so far? All right, okay. So then we take a break of 30 minutes, right? If you like, you can log out and relog again. System will remain as it is. So we will join again at, now it's almost 3, 3:30, right? Please be here at 3:30. And if you have any questions, we can take it up at that point, okay? Exchange rates. Now, please tell me, api kohomada exchange rate එක determine කරන්නේ? Can anyone tell me how to determine the exchange rate? Mr. Pradeep Chandrasena, how to determine the exchange rate? Pradeep? Mr. Rajmohan?
Exchange rate is usually determined by the market based on the supply and demand for the particular exchange.
Okay, so very good. I think that's correct. So exchange rate, something like this. Now let's say this is the forex market. This is a forex market. So I mean, let's say in Sri Lankan context. So there are different ways that the foreign exchange dollars, I mean, it should be dollars or whatever, but we'll, for understanding point of view, we will tell this is dollars, are coming to the market. This is supply. And there are different ways that dollars would go out of the market. Tell me what are the ways that dollars are receiving to the market? Give examples here.
Exports.
Yes. So once we export earning will come. Exports. What else?
Remittance.
If you do remittances, yes. Then
loans.
If we get loans, also will come.
FDIs.
FDI. I mean, those are the main. Very good FDIs. So dollars would come. So normally it should be exports, and exports again are divided into two: goods and services. Now let's say tourism and all other. So it's a service. So this is the way that the dollars are coming to the market. And then these dollars, then what would happen? At a given time, there are a lot of ways that the dollars would go out from the market. Give some examples for that.
Imports.
Imports. And then payment of loans or repayment. And then if you payment of any other services. Now let's say if you are a SEMA or whatever person where you want to pay subscription to SEMA, right? So this is payment for that. So in this situation, it's a dollar to rupee rate taker, LKR to dollar rate to determine by the relative forces of this. So if there would be a lot of dollars in the market, what would happen to dollar to rupee rate? What would happen? The rupee will appreciate or rupee will depreciate?
Appreciate.
Rupee will appreciate, dollar would depreciate. Now let's say, for example, I mean for other people, I mean something like that. Now let's say dollars are equivalent to carats. So now there are different ways that carats getting to the market. Maybe Badulla, Bandarabilla, Nuvareliya, Valimada, and all other channels. And there are different channels that the carat will go out of the market. Maybe hotels, wholesalers, retailers, or something like that, right? So then carat price is an equilibrium of these. Now let's say due to whatever situation, Nuvareliya, Valimada, whatever channel got closed, and only it's Badulla Bandarabilla channel, right? So then these two channels close, and then the carats are coming a little bit less now to the market. But then on the other hand, our demand would be remain more or less same. So then what would happen is that the carat price is increased. And if carat is, or let's say if there would be season or something like that, and the carat coming, a lot of carat are coming to the market, but then the demand is there, demand is not that increased. So then carat prices would go down. So this is where the exchange rate is there. But now what I'm asking is $1 million question. So what is the central bank's role in this? Now this is demand and supply, you know, that is nothing to do with central bank, but how the central bank's role in this?
To have the exchange rate stability in the system.
Yeah. So central bank play a pivotal role here. Now it is two ways. Because now normally, even though we say this demand and supply, 99% pure demand and supply doesn't work in most of the countries. There is some sort of intervention of the regulator also. Now let's say what regulator does is that if there would be a lot of dollars coming, a lot of foreign currency coming to the market, but if you want to keep a particular amount, that excess dollars would be siphoned out, drained out from the market and keep at reserves. China එහෙම කරන්න යන්නේ. Dollar ගොඩක් ආවම $8 reserves විදියට තියාගෙන exchange rate එක යම් කිසි විදිහකට manage කරනවා. Because otherwise China doesn't want their currency to be appreciated, because appreciating of Chinese currency, meaning that Chinese good would be expensive in the market, so China doesn't want. So China keeps a lot of money with us, money within the central bank as reserves. So this is reserves. Actually, foreign exchange, a central bank එකේ බලන්නේ reserve operation එකත් එක්ක. Now, on the other hand, let's say now in countries like Sri Lanka, this is happening like this. Now, we have less dollars due to whatever reason. Our exports are less, our remittance are less, or maybe whatever, and the loans are not, now we are not getting loans, but we have to repay the loans on the other hand. එතකොට what central bank will do? What central bank does? From the reserve, central bank put money to the market and try to balance this off, right? But again, can we do it for long? Can this operation can be done it longer period?
No.
So then, doing this would basically ruin your reserve situation. So this is where that central bank do, right? So please make a short drawing of this. And tell that in theory, the exchange rate, determined by relative demand and supply. However, central bank intervene to this function in two ways. First, at a time of excess dollars, central bank will siphon it out from the market and kept it in the reserves. On the other hand, if there would be a limit of foreign currency, central bank will siphon off dollars from the reserves and place it in the market. By doing so, central bank determine the exchange rate. So this is foreign currency, but then this foreign currency always has a link to the local currency and the money supply. So that's how central bank would have manipulated that. Okay. So with that, we will do the price stability part, and then we go to the last part of the monetary policy. So from today, the main economic session will be done, and then the next week we go to the SME component or role of SME, which is not a very difficult part. Now, since you have more knowledge on economic system, financial systems development. Now, let me ask a question. What do you mean by a financial system? Can anybody? So please write down the financial system stability. What we are now trying to understand, what is financial system? What is financial systems, by the way? Can anyone try? What is financial system? Miss Sanjeevani, Miss Patirana Sanjeevani, what is financial system? Mr. Chalit Jayasundara?
Financial comprises with
financial system क्या मुकाद Chalit?
With other commercial banks, central bank will lead the system with the other licensed commercial banks.
Okay, but if you really want to understand financial system, how you would understand it? Okay, financial system is a system where the whole financial aspects work, right? So if you want to also, please draw this if possible. If you want to diagrammatically present this, now this is a particular diagram. Normally this diagram we call the onion diagram. Please draw this like 3 layers. It's something like a onion diagram. Financial system is not like onion, but I just want to show you different elements in the financial systems. That's it. Please draw this. So this financial system, there are basically 3 layers. First layer, up here, a macro level here, macro level. And there is a second level we call meso level. Mother layer, meso level. And the third level we call micro level. Make it outside the meta level. Macro level, meso level, micro level, meta. Macro level so please try it. Macro level is a level where all the regulators are in place. So who is the main regulator of financial system?
Central Bank.
Central Bank of Sri Lanka is here. Who are the other regulators?
Ministry of Finance.
System regulators.
Customs.
Ministry of Finance.
Customs is not financial system. Customs is border control.
Ministry of Finance.
Okay, to a certain extent, Ministry of Finance. හැබැයි මෙච්චර නෑ නමුත් එයාගේ ගැසට් එහෙම financial system එකට අදාළ ගැසට්ස් එහෙම තියෙන නිසා so they also play a reasonable role but central bank is the main one. But there are some other very important regulators.
Monetary board.
Monetary board is part of central bank.
Import export controller.
Import and export controller is not financial system no puta.
Commercial banks.
Commercial banks are not regulators.
Oh, sorry.
The government.
Government represented by these two.
Treasury.
Huh?
Treasury.
What is it? Huh?
Treasury.
Treasury Finance Ministry. Actually, to your understanding, Ministry of Finance has different sub-elements. Number one is Treasury. This is actually very important point. Customs. Somebody said. Inland revenue. Excise department. Ministry of Finance. Parliament Treasury. Treasury is important. They are the ones who are basically collecting the revenue to the government. That they are not financial systems. Right. Okay. Have you heard something called SEC? What is SEC?
Securities and Exchange Commission.
Securities and Exchange Commissions. Vinimaya ha Surakumpat Commission Sabha. What they regulate? Kandima? What they regulate?
Stock exchange.
They regulates the stock market of the country.
Oh, stock market. Stock market can regulate securities and exchange. So stock market is part of the financial systems because it's financial related instruments. Who is the other regulator? Who regulates into insurance industry?
Insurance Board of
IBSL.
Yeah, those days IBSL, Insurance Board of Sri Lanka, but now the name has been changed. Insurance Regulatory Authority. Insurance Regulatory Authority. Okay, there are some segment of financial institutions called Samurdhi. Who regulate them?
MOF, Minister of Finance.
No. Minister of Finance එක තව එක කොටසක් තියෙනවා මොන authority එකද ඒකට කියන්නේ Samurdhi authority or Divinagoma whatever හැබැයි ඒක small component එකක් Samurdhi but don't misunderstand Samurdhi authority is not the main player but some player who regulates the cooperatives or Samupakara කවුද regulate කරන්නේ corporate, we call now commission of corporate. Of corporate. And I mean, they got a stars, they got Dagan, maybe not body players. But then they can central bank. Hurry. Central bank, have a central bank what you have to understand in a broader sense, actually. What we call central bank, it's not necessarily central bank, actually it's a monetary board. The highest executive authority of the central bank is monetary board. The monetary board real power. Central bank monetary board I will ask a very important question. How central bank regulates the banks or financial institutions? Most of you are bankers, no, or representing banks, and you know this very well. Central bank is regulating your banks. Now tell me how central bank normally do that.
Open market operations.
What do you mean by open market operation? Central bank banks regulate
through the monetary board,
through banking supervision division department. Banking Supervision Department.
Bank and Supervision Department.
Bank and Supervision Department එක තමයි. නමුත් අපි
issuing directions to the banks.
Issuing directions to the bank or issuing directions to the finance companies. Okay. Now, that's true, but in which areas normally? Because as bankers, you should know this. As bankers, you should be 100% aware of how central bank does regulate the other organizations.
Sir, to implement the interest rate and to implement the reserve requirements.
Okay, reserve requirement is very good, but interest rate central bank doesn't do banks. What central bank does would be අපි කලින් කිව්වා වගේ ඒගොල්ලෝ treasury bill rate එක වෙනස් කරනවා. එතකොට all other rates up එක හැදිලා යනවා. Central bank this is very important session, right? It's not necessarily it's good for the SME, but it's for your general knowledge as bankers. මේක හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න මේ කියන්නේ. Central bank එක ආකාර පහකින් bank හෝ මූල්‍ය ආයතන නියාමනයට ලක් කරනවා, regulate කරනවා. There are basically four ways or four types that central bank try to regulate the banks and financial companies. අපි number 1 අපි කියනවා capital adequacy කියලා. Capital adequacy. By monitoring capital adequacy. Can anyone?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Sir, can you please ask others to switch off mic, please? It is not clear. And then.
Okay. Please, can you ask? Can others please switch off the mics? Yeah. Okay. Now I think it's much clearer. Thank you. Right. So first one we call the capital adequacy. What do you mean by capital adequacy?
The ratio between the risk-weighted assets and the adequate capital in the bank.
Okay, can you please explain that little bit, Mr. Imesh? Imesh, the Q Vega.
Yeah, I would say the risk-weighted assets in the banking system.
What do you mean by risk-weighted assets?
The lending products.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the type of the lending products, you can define the risk rates or the risk ratios of each product.
Mm-hmm.
The ratio between the capital of the bank when compared to the risk-weighted assets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Imesh. But I think to understand that, yeah, it's very correct. But understand that topic capital adequacy, because as bankers we should know this. Now, capital adequacy means, now let's say, by the way, what is the main function of the bank? Now you know in your banking sessions. What is the main function of bank? Bank को प्रधान राजकार्य මොකක්ද? අපි එකට කියන්නේ.
Accept deposits and granting.
Accept deposit and then lending. But what is the correct and very academic word for that?
Financial intermediary service.
Very good. Bank's job is financial intermediation. එහෙම නැත්නම් මූල්‍ය අතරමැදිකරණයට ලක්. That means you are accepting deposit from financial surplus units, and then you are lending this money to financial deficit units. This is surplus units. This is deficit. This activity you call financial intermediation. Normally, financial intermediation in your bank, you must have studied this, happening in 3 types. What are these 3 types? Now, I am presuming in this class that everybody are banker, or everybody of you is a banker. Now tell me how this financial intermediation happened. Anyone? First one we call the volume intermediation. Volume intermediation. This is deficit. Huh? Deficit units. This is surplus unit. So surplus unit could be individuals, could be companies and all other. Deficit unit could be corporates, SMEs, microfinance, individuals. Or volume intermediation කියන්නේ that you mobilize deposits from different sizes, or you mobilize deposit from different volumes you bundle it and you lend money on different sizes. Now, for example, if it's a corporate loan, corporate facility, you are giving a big amount. If it is a microfinance, you are giving a small amount. If it's SME, a medium amount. So in a volume making make a transform transformation volume transformation, right? So intermediation. So please, volume intermediation means that the bank mobilize deposits from different sources on different sizes or different volumes and lend to the different sources or different groups in different volumes. So this intermediation that the bank does in this between is called volume intermediation. Second one we call the term intermediation. Term. So now you know what is volume intermediation and you will be able to tell term intermediation. Can any one of you tell what is term intermediation? What do you mean by term intermediation?
The period involved in repaying the deposit. The period involved in repaying the deposits and recovering the loans.
Yeah, term intermediation is again something like, yes, you mobilize money on different terms. Sometimes it could be short term, sometimes it could be long term or medium term or whatever. And then you bundle it and you lend also on different terms. Let's say, for example, like housing loans, long term lending. Maybe business loans, medium term, or maybe microfinance or bank overdraft. It is short term, right? So term intermediation is that bank mobilize deposits on different terms and then lend it to the deficit institutions on different terms. Another one we call risk intermediation. Points. This is not necessarily SME, but very important banking and finance. Risk. How you basically intermediate through risk now? Can anyone tell me? What is the risk that you are having in the lending side? What that particular risk called?
Lending risk.
Credit risk. This is the risk that you have. You call it credit risk. So how to define credit risk?
Default of facility.
Yeah.
Defaulting of facility.
Yeah, default risk of credit. So that means credit risk is the risk associated with inability to recover the advances. Inability to recover the advances with interest. Switch off the mics. With interest on time. I think some are switching off. Please mute your mic. Like unless otherwise that you talk. Yeah. And then once you talk, you just again remute it. Right. So this is in this side, lending side, the main risk that you say that you foresee that you call it's a credit risk. What is the main risk here? So credit risk is that again that you have lended money, but it's you don't have. I mean, you are having a risk of recovering them back. And what is the risk that you associate here? What you call this risk? Credit risk එක වගේ මේ පැත්තේ තියෙන risk එකට අපි මොකක්ද කියන්නේ? මේ පැත්තේ තියෙන risk එක මොකක්ද? What's the risk that you have here?
Liquidity risk.
Yeah, very good. This risk we have the liquidity risk. Exactly. Very correct. What do you mean by that?
Unable to meet customers' demand on time.
Very good. Unable to meet the depositors' demand. Depositor will ask money, but inability to pay that. So this is the banking. Now අපි මෙතෙන්ට ආවොත් එහෙම what is the අපි කියාගෙන ආවේ capital adequacy ගැන. Capital adequacy කියලා කියන්නේ මෙහෙමයි. Now imagine this is your fund pool. Funds of the bank. Part of that would be your share capital. What do you mean by share capital? Initial money that has been put to set up a bank. What is the minimum share capital that a commercial bank should have?
It has been increased to 2.5 billion if I am not misunderstanding. I am not mistaken. 2.5 billion?
2.5 billion was previously. Before, now what is that? Now it has been increased. Initially it was 2.5 billion and then 5 billion, 2.5 billion for specialized bank and 5 billion for commercial banks. Now I think it's 5 billion for commercial banks and all of the product, but I'm also not sure, but it's been increased. So this is the initial share capital. And then there's another part, it's called retained profits. So that means so far what has been accumulated is the profit. So this is basically one aspect of the capital. And then your savings, normal savings, FDs, the current account, current and savings account. Another one, if the bank is borrowed any loan from a foreign bank or whatever, or government or treasury, so this is we call the bank's fund pool. So this fund pool you are using for lending. So what do you mean by now tier 1 capital? Who said that answer is risk-weighted asset? So can you now, looking at this, can you please tell what is tier 1 capital? So tier 1 capital is this part. Share capital and the profits. So that means may okkogemma tamai ar kiyapu katawa hari may okkogemma tamai that you are lending. That's fine. Lend එක කරපු එකට සාපේක්ෂව කොච්චර core capital එක තියනවාද කියන එක තමයි tier 1 capital එක තියනවාද කියන එක තමයි තියෙන්නේ. So is it having a strong tier 1 capital is a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing, sir.
Why you think it's a good thing, Chandima?
In case of liquidation or in case of bankruptcy, it will help. Okay. It is something you have to understand like a foundation, right? So having a solid, strong foundation for a house, it's always good, right? So then foundation is very strong. So then house would not get any problem. So that's what that even sometimes that you need you use the piling and all other to make the foundation strong. But on the other hand, you have to very consciously understand the strength of the foundation has to be always linked to the building. If a foundation is very thin, you should not have a very tall building because the building is not stable. So building is something like the loans, and as somebody just said, right? Building is that what is that your risk-weighted assets or you are giving the loans. So if the foundation is very strong, you can go for a skyscraper. And if the foundation is thin, then you don't have to go. But on the other hand, you have to understand, it's no point of having a very strong foundation if you have 1 or 2 stairs. අපු දෙකක් විතර දෙනවා ලොකු මේ කෝටි ගණන් ඇදලා ෆයිල් කරලා හදන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. හදන එක තේරුම. හදන එක හොඳයි. තේරුම. අපි ෆයිල් කරලා එම කරලා හදන්න ඕනේ උඩට ගන්න. එතකොට බැංකුවක් well capitalized කියලා අපි කියන්නේ පදනම හොඳයි කියන එක. එයාට තව loans දෙන්න පුළුවන්. එයාට තව leverage කරන්න පුළුවන්. එයාට තව පොඩක් push කරන්න පුළුවන්. තව sorry. දරා ගන්න පුළුවන්. අන්න ඒකට තමයි අපි කියන්නේ. එතකොට central bank එකේ එක function එකක් තමයි මෙන්න මේ capital adequacy එක බලන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ අර කිව්වා වගේ චලිත් හරි කවුරුහරි කිව්ව එක මම හිතන්නේ. So what is the ratio between your loans versus capital? how much you have leveraged. අරක වගේ මේ ෆවුන්ඩේෂන් එකට සාපේක්ෂව කොච්චර තට්ටු ගාණක් හදලා තියෙනවා. හදන්න පුළුවන්ද? අන්න ඒක තමයි capital adequacy. So central bank is very very keen. මොකද මේ capital adequacy එක නැති වුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ පුතා? Imesh, what would happen if the foundation is weak?
You will not allow to lend anymore.
You will not allow to lend, but what would happen to the bank?
Definitely it collapse.
Collapse, exactly. අරක වගේ foundation එක weak. ඒකේ තට්ටු 25ක් හැදුවොත් එහෙම building එක collapse. අන්න ඒකයි තියෙන්නේ. හින්දා so very important thing that central bank would look at capital adequacy. හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. Right? So capital adequacy එක ලියන්න කවුරු හරි ලියුවේ නැත්නම් capital adequacy is what? It's a ratio between the tier 1 capital to risk weighted assets which are loan portfolio. හැබැයි ඔක තව complicated. අර කලින් වගේ දැන් loan portfolio එක risk අඩු නම් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. දැන් අපි කියමු අපි දීලා තියෙන ඔක්කොම loans දීලා තියෙන්නේ cash back නම්. එතකොට capital එක පොඩි වුණාට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ normally. මොකද ඔක්කොම දීලා තියෙන්නේ cash back නම්. එතකොට අපිට කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. එතකොට foundation එක ඒ කියන්නේ මෙයා වුණත් ඒ කියන්නේ ඒක කිසි එහෙම අවුලක් නැහැ. but ඒක එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක එතකොට අර risk weighted කියන එකේ අර්ථය ඒකයි. ඒ කියන්නේ දීලා තියෙන loan එක risk weighted දෙකට අරගෙන තමයි බලන්න ඕනේ. නිකන් loan එක දීපු පමණින් bad කියන්නත් බෑ. loan එක දීපු පමණින් හොඳයි කියන්නත් බෑ. It's always depend on the risk weight. Right, that's number one.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Could you please further explain about different portfolios of the bank? Central bank has given specific guidelines for certain sectors, no? Agriculture, banking, tourism, certain sectors, no? So could you please elaborate more on that?
What exactly you want?
Percentages for agriculture sector, SME sector, and other tourism sector.
Oh yeah.
Sectors. Certain percentages were allocated for banks for directions given.
එහෙම කියන්නේ central bank direction එක කියන්නේ central bank will not tell okay give this amount to this sector, this amount to this sector. එහෙම කියන්නේ but central bank will tell like this. At least minimum of your loan portfolio minimum 10% වලට වඩා දෙන්න ඕනේ agricultural sector එකට. Something like that they will say. That is actually nothing to do with regulation. I mean hardcore regulation. That is normal අපි කියන්නේ අර directive එකක් ගේ දෙන්නේ. Directive එකක් දෙනවා හරි. මොකද we need agricultural development. Now let's say if you are RDB or if you are Bank of Ceylon. So please make sure that at least 10% of your portfolio you have to give to agricultural sector. You don't normally specify an amount, but at least the minimum amount you will get. So that means you have to make sure at any time, if you're reporting back to me as regulator, that you report a figure which you have given agriculture sector exceed 10% of the loan portfolio. So that means that you are at least committing to support that sector. That's your reflection of your commitment to that particular sector. So that is a kind of a direction that central bank does, but that is nothing to do with a regulation. So ඒ වගේ ඒවා පුතා regulation එකක් විදිහට කරා. Regulation කියන්නේ capital adequacy. Capital adequacy ratio එක regulation එකක්. ඒක you have to keep it. يعني මේ ratios regulation. හැබැයි අරක දුන්නේ නැහැ කියලා central bank penalize කරන්නේ නැහැ, but normally in a normal bank, in a normal professional practice, that you always tend to obey to your regulator. Or if you want to tell other way around, you don't want to mess around with a regulator, right? So normally you know it's a normal, I mean normal business ethics, like you are not messing around with your boss. No, if you want to mess around with your boss, either you have to take another job or maybe another place. So something like that. So if you are a regulator, super powerful regulator, central bank, you don't want to, I mean that's the least thing that you would like to have. You are pissing off your regulator. Chandima, did I answer your question? I'm not very clear what you asked.
I understood, sir.
You understood, right? Very good. Okay, but that is not a sort of area of regulation per se. This is what capital adequacy. Okay, second area of regulation we call asset quality.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
we didn't complete that previous paragraph. Capital adequacy ratio is between.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Right? Capital adequacy is a ratio between the core capital or the tier 1 capital. I'm sorry that. So what is core capital or what is the tier 1 capital is share capital and profits, accumulated profits, to the total amount of loans and advances. Then right below, however, the loan and advances should be risk weighted. Meaning of that means based on the collateral that it has to be weighted or calculated. එහෙම නැත්නම් තේරෙනම විදියට කියනවා නම් අර cashback වගේ ඒවා අපි මේකට ගන්නේ නැහැ මොකද cashback එක කොහොමද cashback core capital එක තිබ්බත් නැතත් loan එකේ වෙන තර cash එක recover කරගන්න. So it's okay. If it is backed by a very good let's say land or something like that, that's all. So it's a different calculation which I don't want to go to further. Right. Okay. Other one is asset quality. Asset quality කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? You know this.
Quality of the loans which are granted.
Quality of the loan which are granted. Very good, Anjana. So it's basically it is like the portfolio quality. Portfolio quality. So that is why central bank is very keen on, because if the portfolio is getting bad and delinquent, what could happen?
NPL ratio will increase.
Or NPL ratio එක වැඩි වෙනකොට අනිත් පැත්තට මොනවද අපි hit වෙන්නේ?
Income and the loss of the
අපේ loan impairment එක වැඩි වෙනවා. Impairment එක වැඩි වෙනකොට profitability එක අඩු වෙනවා.
Interest cost.
ඊට පස්සේ interest cost එක මෙහා වෙනවා. Cash flow එක upset කරනවා. බැංකුවේ credit rating එක පල්ලෙහාට වැටෙනවා. Future borrowings not possible වෙනවා. Attracting of savings not possible වෙනවා. ලොකු ප්‍රශ්න ගොඩකට වැදියක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා. ඒ හින්දා තමයි. So one of the very important thing in banking is to have a good asset quality. I think ඒක ටිකක් අමාරුයි කරන්න. කොයි වෙලාවෙ හරි bad loans එන්න පුළුවන්. Right. That is asset quality. Third aspect we call liquidity. ඒක ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා liquidity. Liquidity කියලා කියන්නේ how much liquid money that bank has. මේ liquidity එක මේවා කරන්න තියෙන වැදගත්ම ratio එක මොකක්ද? Central bank එක maintain කරන. Some of you said
Statutory reserve ratio.
SRR. Statutory reserve ratio. Statutory reserve ratio. So that means, what do you mean by, can you explain statutory reserve ratio? Oh, well done now. I mean, bankers normally know this. What is statutory reserve ratio? Can you
Every deposit we have to make some kind of amount to central bank main account.
In other words, statutory reserve.
Out of the liability portfolio, the bank has to reserve 2% in central bank as a reserve.
Yeah, so 2% or it's depending on the time to time. So that means out of your liability portfolio, that means out of your deposits, a certain percentage, it's a mandatory, you have to keep it with the central bank. So please write if anybody don't know that. Statutory reserve ratio is a mandatory requirement or reserve requirement that the bank should adhere, where bank percentage is 2%, madam.
Yeah, 2%.
Yeah, it's 2%.
2%. Okay. So ratio, for example, 2% of now. ඒක සමහරට 6-7ටත් යනවා පුතා. හරි?
Yeah, earlier it was 7.5, then reduced to 7, then again 4, now it's 2.
2. Yeah. So that is what. So a percentage which is being kept at central bank as a security. What is the logic of that? Why central banks are keeping statutory ratio?
Because then the central bank can, when a bank going to be collapsed due to the liquidity issue, the central bank can use that reserves to build that bank again back to the business.
Yeah. So it is something like a very, soft security, where that if any depositor comes and if bank said that no, it's not possible to pay or whatever, so in such situation, with the statutory reserve ratio, that you can be repaid. I mean, at least. So, but that doesn't happen like that way. But it is as a sort of a cushion, or so to a certain level, it's a guarantee that it's been kept with the bank. So that is the liquidity management statutory reserve ratio. What do you think the fourth one, where central bank is looking at? Fourth one we call the operational risk. Basel 2, Basel 3. Operational risk. Now, what are these operational risk elements? What are the operational risk? Yeah, operational risk and monada samani. Bankers, say, come on. What are the operational risks that you are facing in the bank? Chandima?
Due to the mishandling or misusing of man processes and other equipments related to the banking industry, if it is mishandled, there is a risk.
Okay, but that is actually a part of operational risk. Anjana, you want to tell something?
About monitoring the money laundering and KYC.
Yeah, exactly. Operational risk has a bigger forum. So that means operational risk, so please write the risk associated with day-to-day operations of a bank. So number one operational risk element is your IT security. And so that is what now every bank you have this position called Chief Information Officer, CIO. Chief Information Officer, because the thing is this IT security, the password, the data, the protection, that is one of the huge element of operational risk. And that goes a different whole area of study. Another one is, as somebody of you said, I think Chandima, that the security of the people, security of the premises, that's also, but that's a very minor thing. Another operational risk is, yes, KYC, know your customer. And other one is anti-money laundering. Those are operational risks. Whether you've been allowing the drug dealers or the black market people to come and deposit their money in your bank and may do money laundering. So those are the operational risks. So operational risk also, central bank is looking very thoroughly. Last one we call corporate governance. This is nothing to do with finance, but general law and governance. And what do you mean by a corporate governance? Can anybody tell what this corporate governance is?
Checking and audits. What are
Huh?
audit controls? No.
Okay, audit, but yeah, what is corporate governance in a bank point of view?
Following central bank regulations.
Yeah, central, so corporate, all other central bank regulation, no, but corporate governance is like, okay, like how many non-executive directors are in the bank?
Retirement age of the
retirement
CEO.
age of the CEO or whatever, yes. And
Transparency.
Huh?
Transparency.
Transparency in what sense?
In all transactions.
Yes, but when it comes to bank, how you apply that concept of transparency?
We can't get, say, when we are getting interest, it should be reasonable amount, and we are maintain the securities NPA on as per the central bank rules and regulations.
That is asset quality. That corporate governance is like, you know, the ways that the banks are governed. Like, I mean, let's say for
Periodical reports to be sent to central bank.
periodical report to central bank, where that's, I said, the composition of, especially it's board level, right? It's the composition of the board, how many non-executive directors are in the board. So, and whether you have a separate audit committee, board audit committee, you have a separate board risk committee, and how that is being reported. So all these good practices, or rather, if you have proper human resources policy where you promotions and all of the, whether it's so something, I mean, all these we call the corporate governance, right? So that is also one other thing that central bank looks, right? Okay, so moving forward, so this is something else, right? This is some additional knowledge I would like to give it to you. So this is macro level. Then coming back to the financial system, let's forget about the meso level for the time being, but micro level. So micro level, please, right? Micro level comprise of institutions which provide financial services. Institutions which provides financial services. So then, what are these institutions? You know, the main one is banks, finance companies, leasing companies, microfinance companies, cooperatives, and some only, and insurance companies. Banks, finance companies, leasing companies, microfinance companies, insurance companies, and cooperatives, and some of the cooperatives and some of the are very small segment again. So these are the financial service providers. I will ask another question. When it's come to financial service, how you understand financial service? What do you mean by financial service? Financial services are loans and advances, savings, insurance, fund transfers, and advice. It's all we call advisor, in the sense financial advisor. We all tell this. It's all comprised of financial services. So any institute who provide financial services, we call, they are falling into micro level, and then it's managed by mainly central bank, but with, in some instances, other regulators. Okay, banks. What are the types of banks in Sri Lanka we have? You know, as bankers?
Central bank, licensed commercial banks, finance companies.
The finance companies is here.
Not finance companies. Licensed specialized bank.
Licensed commercial banks and licensed specialized. Tell the difference between these two. Every banker must know this.
Only licensed commercial banks can maintain current accounts.
Very good. So that is the difference between these two. Give an example for licensed for specialized bank.
NSB.
NSB. Baba?
RDB.
RDB.
SDB.
SDB.
Yeah, those are licensed specialized bank. So this is finance companies, leasing companies, and all. So this is basically it called the micro level. Now we call the meso level. So meso level comprise of actually
meso level, they are not regulators. On the other hand, they are not financial service providers, but very important institutions for a country to, or for financial systems to work on. Can you give some examples for meso level? You can go regulators lat නෙමෙයි, financial service providers lat නෙමෙයි. මොන වගේ ආයතනද අපි හිතන්නේ? CRIB. You know what is CRIB? CRIB stands for Credit Information Bureau. So CRIB is a meso level institution. So it's not a regulator. CRIB. Yeah. Any question or any comment? Right. So CRIB is not a regulator. No, it's a financial service provider, but then support agents. So please note, meso level institutions are institutions which support the function of financial industry. And මේකට ඉන්න තව එකක් කියන්නේ CRIB එක වගේ.
Lanka Clear.
Clearing the house. Okay, Lanka Clear. Check clearance. So that is also a supporting agency. What else?
Lanka Pay.
Huh?
Lanka Pay.
Okay, pay, Lanka Pay. That is for the fund transfers. And others? Audit firms, rating firms, and all other would come to meso level. So what I want to tell is, wrapping up this section, this is, by the way, what is meta level? Meta level is actually not within the country, but you have a significant impact. Now let's say a good example is World Bank and IMF. So those are meta level. So particularly IMF. So IMF does not play a part of particular Sri Lanka's financial system, but it has a significant impact to that. Because these people either give loans or give some currency stability and all of that. Right. So wrapping up today's lecture. Right. So this is fine. So the monetary policy has the second objective is to make sure the stability of this entire financial system. So central bank is entrusted with that. So you don't have to misunderstand. Central bank is also part of the financial system, of course, but central bank is being the main regulator, because in every other regulator, central bank has either directorship or some sort of a link. The central bank plays a vital role in providing the regulatory and supervision power of this. Now let's say Lanka Clear CRIB also central bank has a directorship. So central bank directly or indirectly regulating these organizations. Some of these organizations, like some of the very minute things, central bank not involved, but in a major picture, central bank is responsible. And this one, Sri Lankan central bank is not there, but for our information and for our knowledge, we know what is that. Right? Okay. Any questions? Any questions? If we don't have a questions, I think it's better that we wrap up the session today. I know it's quite early, but I wanted to start a fresh start next week with the role of SME and SME development, because it would be otherwise too tired. I mean, honestly, too tired for me and too tired for you of listening, and for me, especially talking to a computer. So unless you have any questions, we will wrap up the session today.
quite early. And then we will start the next session. Please write the role of SME in economic development, and the subtopic is understanding the SME market. What do you mean by SME? So now we studied a bit of economics, we studied the fiscal policy and the monetary policy, we studied the financial system, the role of banks and all other. We studied a little bit of the lending and all other aspect. Now we focus to much more SME topics, but not today, but in the next class, right? So next class we will meet, and if you have any questions, you can ask now before we wind it up. All right. So if you have no questions, we will wind it up for today, and then we will meet next week, right? Okay. So have a good, not a weekend, have a good Sunday then, and then the rest of the week, right?